So welcome to Bridges and Barriers. This is our opening reception for the show, which is up at the archives. It will be up until November 14th. Please come in and see the show in person, even though you get to meet the artists tonight face to face and hear a little bit about them. If you come in and see the show in person, I think you're going to be very impressed with the Shooting Without Bullets installation, which you really are not going to get a good view of tonight, just a tiny view, as well as seeing the rest of the work. We're just going to give you a sample of the work tonight, and so you really want to come in and see the whole show. We're open for regular hours, Wednesday through Friday from 10 to 4, and we're also open on Saturdays from 12 to 4. And you do have to wear a mask when you're in the gallery, but we can do a maximum of 10 people at once in the gallery without a problem. And we've got hand sanitizer all over the place, and we're cleaning the gallery, so I think you'd be perfectly safe to come and visit with us, and we would love to have you. So I'll just say a little bit about the archives, since it seems like we're kind of starting. The mission of the archives is to collect representative bodies of work by Ohio's visual artists. We keep them in a collection, which is part of the building that we're in. We have 84 artists currently and 10,000 works. So again, please come and visit us. We do 6 exhibitions a year in our gallery space, and we're really happy to reopen and start with exhibitions again. And we also have been doing some satellite exhibitions. So we'll have some of those coming up. We just ended one with the Cleveland Botanical Gardens. I'm Mindy Tousley. I'm the executive director, for those of you who don't know me. And I think I'm just going to take a minute to introduce the rest of my staff for tonight. We have Megan Elves, who is our marketing and programming manager. Megan, would you?
Everyone. Hello.
Kelly Pontoni is our collections registrar. She actually is in the archives gallery space right now with the Shooting Without Bullets collective. We wanted to make sure that young adults could participate, and so it was better to kind of gather them in one spot. And they will be masked tonight, which is not ideal, but it's okay. Tricky finger on my mouse. Okay, I'd like to take a minute to thank our funders. You can see them on screen there, the Bernice and David Davis Art Foundation, the Cleveland Foundation, the Gunn Foundation, the Zufall Foundation, the voters of Cuyahoga County through Cuyahoga Arts and Culture, and the Ohio Arts Council. And Megan, do you want to take a minute and just go over some of the Zoom protocols for people?
Sure, not a problem. So hi everyone, welcome to the presentation. It's good to have you here. Just a few things about Zoom. I know that a lot of you have been on it, but a little lay of the land. So a couple of functions you should be aware of. One is, the first most important one is the view. When you're watching the presentation, there's a couple of different views you can do. In the upper right corner, there's an icon. It can either be gridded. If you tap the icon, it should say active speaker view or speaker view versus gallery view. And that means who's ever speaking is going to be large and in charge right in the middle of the screen. So if you do gallery view, it will look like the Brady Bunch. So that will be your clue that you're actually in it. Another cool function of Zoom is that down at the bottom, or can be a little different depending if you're using a Mac, is the chat function. When you click on chat, you'll see something roll in the right-hand side of your screen. So just make sure to click the drop-down menu to all panelists and attendees. And that way it goes to everyone. Or just as the people use chat a little sparingly, just it's like talking in class. So good for a little hello, but remember the main show's right on the screen. And then most importantly is the Q&A function. At the bottom, it says Q&A, again, different position. And if you click on it, you can actually ask questions for the artists. We'll be doing Q&A at the end. Just make sure to preface your question with the name of the artist at the beginning, and then I'll gather them up and ask them at the end. Outside of that, everyone will be muted during the presentation, and we won't be able to see the attendees, just the panelists. So outside of that, thank you so much for coming. I'm going to throw it back to Mindy, and we appreciate everyone being here.
Thanks, Megan. So I think I'd like to talk a little bit about the show in general. I did curate the show, so I think I'm qualified to talk about all the artists' work. This show was the idea of our exhibition committee, which does brainstorm on all of our shows and supports all of our exhibitions. And it was conceived originally back in 2017, and it kept kind of getting bumped and bumped. And I'm really happy that we were able to do it in 2020, because I think it's the perfect show for everything that's going on in 2020. So we really wanted to do a show, Bridges and Barriers, about the real or metaphorical things that hold us together or split us apart. That means neighborhoods, families, race, economic barriers. It's a very wide topic, and I'm sure we can all think of many, many things that are bridges and barriers in our lives. And in looking at the artists to include in the show, it actually pretty quickly became a photography show. And the theme is ripe for interpretations. As you can imagine, geography plays an important role in dividing a city. We can especially see this here in Cleveland, where our city is split geographically by a river, which helped initially divide and establish where different socioeconomic classes and races would live in the city. And of course, this also has given us some really wonderful architectural structures in the many physical bridges that span the city and bring the two sides of East and West together. A city, as we all know when we think of cities, is a living organism. So as cities grow and change, the boundaries of wealth and race also change and move. And I think that's very true of Cleveland and of any city. And each of the artists in this show has really examined the ways in which these different changes affect us. So I'm going to share my screen, and we are going to see an image of our first artist who we'll be talking with tonight, and that is, that is Chuck Mintz. So Chuck's work in the show looks at the effects of the foreclosure crisis in 12 neighborhoods from his personal perspective of photographing a home in every neighborhood where he has lived over his lifespan. Because of the size of our space, we really could not show all 12 of these. Each of the pieces is quite large, 48 by 48 inches. And so we picked 3. And Chuck can tell you a little bit about those. And each piece also has one of these didactics that goes next to it. And for the purposes of this presentation tonight, I picked the birth piece. So you can see, you know, sort of didactics from Chuck's life. And then this is what the piece actually looks like in the gallery space. There are 2 photographs. There is a roller shade with a photograph on it on top. And this is the view number 1 with the shade down. And this is view number 2 with the shade up. So this is really interesting work. And when I saw this on Chuck's website, I thought, wow, this is perfect for this show. It demonstrates the widespread home foreclosures are a complicated problem. It's a problem that intertwines pretty much all of the boundaries I mentioned previously, and kind of undermines the symbol of the American dream, home ownership. And so, so these 3 pieces are in the show, as well as initially, we were going to put these beautiful portraits that Chuck has done recently from the Rainey Institute into the show. The Rainey Institute is absolutely a bridge. It's a bridge between communities and generations. And these are beautiful candid portraits that were taken over a 2-year period, and they are displayed in the show as part of the office. So we've moved them into the office gallery. So you can see, I think it's 7 of these. And I'm going to end here, and I'm going to turn it over to Chuck, and he can tell you a little bit about his background and about his photography.
Thanks, Mindy. I think they put me on first because they wanted to practice getting the hook. I'm relatively famous for talking forever. Every place I ever lived, foreclosure project, was sort of created from a bike ride through the neighborhood that I grew up in, and noticing, this was back maybe before 2008 when this all came to a head, but there was a HUD sticker in the window in this perfectly nice looking neighborhood in Cleveland Heights. These are one of the neighborhoods they were built after the war. They're small, 1,100 square foot bungalows, but here was my childhood home. And I generally do not provide answers when I work. I provide a question, and then the work really is designed to inform me as well as the viewer about what we're looking at. And I often don't understand what I've done until sometimes many years after the project is done. In this case, the question was pretty simple, which is what the hell's going on here? And of course, by the time 2008 was over, everybody knew about it. And as Mindy mentioned, it really called into question the idea of home ownership and the great American dream. I would commend you to, I spent a lot of time in the library on this project, and that led to some other things that I'm doing recently. But I would commend you to look at those side pieces and the data, because they say an awful lot about the places, whether it's Cleveland or the suburbs, both in terms of their population, their relative wealth back then and now, and which, by the way, hasn't changed much, which was a great surprise to me, and racial makeup, which has obviously changed a lot, and overall population in Cleveland, which has dropped about 2/3. So every place was homes in every neighborhood I ever lived. Not every place I lived in was foreclosed, but the second, the one following the one you see is the one that was there. The astounding thing about it was how visible or invisible the foreclosures were. In Cleveland, in Fairfax, where I took that first picture, it was easy to see the foreclosed pictures, foreclosed houses. In Cleveland Heights and South Euclid, everything looked fine, but when you looked at property records, it was disaster. The other project here, the one I did at Rainey is an after-school arts program for kids 5 to 14. The director was a friend of mine. The prior director was a friend of mine, and he kept on saying, you ought to do a project. And I kept on going, yeah, I don't know. And finally, I decided to go ahead. I did a number of projects there, including these candids, a lot of formal portraits with a wooden camera and studio lighting, and a video. But what kept me there was I really love children. I really like kids. I particularly like other people's kids. I just take a great deal of delight and pleasure from them. That's easy with 5-year-olds. It's not so easy with 14-year-olds. And in fact, it sort of tests some things I believe about my own portraiture, which I try to make very respectful of the subjects. And 14-year-olds can test that commitment pretty quickly. These portraits are not sanitized, but I think they're flattering. Flattering, not so much because the kids are always smiling and happy, but flattering because the kids are looking like kids and looking like people who deserve our respect and attention. How's that for 5 minutes?
That was great, Chuck. Thank you. That was just about perfect, as I would expect. So our next artist up that we're going to talk about is Stephen Bivens. Stephen was someone that I invited into the show initially, and he was going to make something special for us. And unfortunately, as most of you know or don't know, his life was cut short pretty, well, it was just unexpected. He died unexpectedly. So his widow, Jennifer, is here, and she's going to say a few words about Stephen's work for us. So the work that we're showing in the show is older work of Stephen's. It is work that he showed me, but it is not what he absolutely intended to do for us over the summer. But the work really shows the industrial beauty of the bridges of Cleveland. Jennifer wrote that Stephen loved the strength and beauty of this aspect of Cleveland, and he captured it wonderfully in the 3 very traditionally made photographs that we have on display here. They are printed the old-fashioned way in a darkroom from 35mm film, and Stephen did teach traditional photography through the Cleveland Print Room. So I'm going to show you, we only have 3 on display in the gallery, so I will show you 2, and you must come in and see the 3rd one. There you go. I have a little trigger finger on the mouse when I'm moving images around. And I love the title on this one. It's, of course, the Memorial Bridge, but it's called Hope, for the Hope Memorial Bridge. I will say that if anyone is interested, you know, a lot of the work in the show is for sale. I would say most of it is for sale. And these photographs in particular are very reasonably priced. And if we sell any of them, all the proceeds from the purchase of the photographs from this exhibition will be donated to the Cleveland Print Room to help fund a scholarship in Stephen's name. So I think that's pretty much all I'm going to say, and I'm going to turn it over to you, Jennifer. Thank you for coming, Jennifer.
Oh, well, thank you for having me. Wow, what a privilege it is to be here and to have the opportunity to just honor Stephen's work. And I know many of you who are participating tonight as fellow artists certainly knew Stephen well and care deeply for him and he for you. And I am certain that many of you who are joined to watch feel the same. So, and if you followed Stephen's work at all, you know that he loved to photograph bridges. It was a thing. He loved bridges. And I think he loved bridges for so many reasons. The architecture is stunning, and he was always fascinated by that. They're kind of gritty and just kind of emphasize what he always felt Cleveland was. And also just giving that layer of hope of connecting one space to another and allowing the connectivity. And I think for most of you, I would imagine, I certainly felt like Stephen lived his life as a bridge of sorts, be it between people. He was an amazing bridge between people of all kinds. He was also a bridge, as you mentioned, even earlier, about just teaching children and serving as a bridge to educate young people. He even liked those crazy 14-year-olds who, you know, a lot of us aren't too interested and excited by, but those were Stephen's favorite. And I know Jef can attest to that because they taught side by side many a time. So I'm very pleased to provide these 3 images for the show. 2 of them were shown in the trademarks exhibit at, where is that show at? My mind is Worthington Yards. I'm so sorry. Yes, at Worthington in 2019. So those are 2 earlier works of his. And then the other he actually showed at the Cleveland Print Room at a show in 2018. So they've been hanging in our home and we've been enjoying them, and I'm happy to allow you to enjoy them. And again, just to remind you, if you would like to purchase one and allow it to take some space on your own wall in your own home, we will gift the proceeds to the Cleveland Print Room to help fund a scholarship fund in his name, just to encourage students and provide more opportunity for students to connect and engage with photography. Just thank you so much. I appreciate the opportunity to be here, and just it seems like never-ending outpouring of support and care and compassion from the arts community of Cleveland. So thank you for allowing me to join you this evening. It's just such a privilege and an honor. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. We really appreciate having you, and I'm really, really happy that we could get some of Stephen's work into the show. That makes me very happy. So our next artist up, and I'm going to share my screen again, is Lauren Paccini. And the work that we have of Lauren's in the archive show is from the Cultural Garden. And the Ethiopian Cultural Garden, I put this one in here because it's so beautiful. It is, I think it's the last garden that was put up recently, but Lauren can correct me if I'm wrong on that. I believe there's 9 photographs of Lauren's in the Cultural Garden. The Cultural Gardens really celebrate our immigrants that have made up the people of Cleveland for generations. They form a beautiful park, which we can all freely enjoy, and a reminder, I think, that inclusion makes us stronger and that America has always been a melting pot. If you are not a Native American, then you or your ancestors came here from somewhere else. And I think that's important to remember. So the Cultural Gardens are absolutely a bridge. They are a bridge between cultures. They are a bridge between peoples. And I think they're a symbol of the unity of Cleveland. And Lauren, I hope that I got the right title on this one, the Hungarian Cultural Garden. So if I didn't, please tell me.
You're doing just fine, Mindy.
Okay, that's good. It's a beautiful photograph. You know, it's too bad that we couldn't, again, our gallery space is pretty small, so we couldn't show all of the photographs that I'd like to from each of these artists. But I think we have a really good sampling. So Lauren, would you like to tell us about your work?
Yes, I really would. First of all, thank you, Mindy, and Megan, and everyone who is involved in making this happen. Before I tell you about myself and my photographs that are included in the gallery, I want to add my thanks to the Artists' Archives of the Western Reserve for producing Bridges and Barriers and hosting this virtual opening reception. But above all, I want to welcome and thank those who Zoomed in to be with us tonight, transforming this reception from a local event to regional and maybe beyond. By way of background, I'm an available light black and white architectural photographer and local history author. Largely self-taught, my style has been influenced by the likes of Alfred Stieglitz, Ansel Adams, Margaret Bourke-White, Lee Friedlander, and Julius Shulman. For the last 15 years, my concentration has been on documenting the renovation, restoration, and repurposing of historic, industrial, and commercial properties throughout Northeast Ohio. The projects that I find most fulfilling are the ones that I can photograph before any work is begun, and then document the work as the project progresses and make final images of the completed job. Black and white photography offers a compelling richness of detailed texture and contrast that's often obscured by the color palette. It's particularly well suited to telling the story of the urban landscape. My photographs generally do not include people. I feel that people define the photograph, and I prefer to encourage the viewer to interpret the photograph in the context of his or her own experience. My projects include documenting the transformation of historic St. Luke's Hospital after 12 years of abandon and vandalism to St. Luke's Manor, including affordable senior living, home to 2 nonprofit organizations, and a charter school. For the project, I was a recipient of the National Trust for Historic Preservation, Housing and Urban Development Secretary's Award for Excellence in Historic Preservation, of which I'm very proud. Another was the transformation of the former Cleveland Trust Complex into the 9, a combination of luxury apartments and hotel accommodations, restaurants, lounges, occupying the former 1973 Breuer Tower, the 1910 Swetland Building, and then there's always the amazing Heinen's downtown that occupies the historic 1908 Rotunda. Not all of my projects have involved repurposing, nor have all involved architecture. In celebration of the 50th anniversary of the founding of the Nature Center at Shaker Lakes, I authored Preserving the Shaker Parklands to tell the story of the freeway fight that saved Cleveland Heights and Shaker Heights as we now know them, and the story of one of the nation's leading nature education centers. Currently, I'm partnered with acclaimed Cleveland historian John Grabowski, professor of history at Case Western Reserve University and senior vice president and historian at the Western Reserve Historical Society. Together, we're creating a book to tell the story of the cultural gardens in a way in which it has never been told before. Europeans fled religious and political intolerance and persecution. Many migrated to Cleveland, drawn by the jobs in the steel mills, chemical plants, and factories. They were met with less than open arms in their new home, being made to feel like second-class citizens. The founding of the Cultural Gardens gave the immigrants a stage on which to show that they too had much more to offer than just the willingness to work hard. My photographs in this exhibit are a small sample of those made over the last decade in Cleveland's historic cultural gardens. The gardens represent the richness of Cleveland's cultural diversity through tributes to scientists, theologians, philosophers, educators, composers, musicians, writers, and the like. Many of the early gardens, connecting paths and walkways, and stone retaining walls along much of Doan Brook were created during the Great Depression, largely with labor from the Federal Works Progress Administration. By 1940, there were 17 cultural gardens facing East Boulevard and Liberty Boulevard. During the next 45 years, only 4 new gardens were dedicated. But since 1985, 15 new gardens have been dedicated, with 5 more currently in planning stages. In addition to the original North American and European cultures, we now see Asian, African, and South American gardens. In the context of this exhibit, the mission of the gardens is to bridge the barriers of ethnicity, to create peace through understanding. Thank you for being here this evening. I hope you're enjoying the virtual opening. I hope you'll opt to schedule a visit to the archives to see the exhibition in person. And if you're not familiar with the gardens or haven't visited them a while, I hope you will schedule a visit there as well.
Thank you, Lauren. I do urge everyone to go to the gardens. I get to drive through them every day on my way to work, which is a pretty gorgeous drive. And it's really, you know, when visitors come into the city and they see the cultural gardens, they're kind of amazed, because I think it's something that's really unique to Cleveland. So our next artist is Jef Janis. So as you can see from this photograph, Jef has captured the story of the Irish Bend Stabilization Project and its effect on the homeless population. So while Cleveland's had some fantastic revivals with an emphasis on renovation and reuse of buildings downtown, commercial buildings being turned into private residencies, and our waterfront, which is moving from industrial use to public land and private use, you know, things are becoming gentrified. And gentrification does have its downside. And the body of work that Jef is showing in the archives really documents, I think, the negative effects of change that most of us would consider positive. But when it's imposed on marginalized populations, you know, it really becomes something else. So I've given you 3 photographs here. I think if you come into the archives, you can get a pretty complete story of this change. And I'm going to ask Jef to talk a little bit more about the Irish Bend project and how he came to photograph this. Jef, are you still there? Did we lose you? Oh, drat. Okay, so it looks like we've lost Jef temporarily. So
Okay.
I'm gonna put his photograph back up. Are you back on?
Oh.
Jef, are you back? Can you see him, Megan?
I got oh, there's Jef, I think.
I think I'm back.
Okay. Okay. I think we've lost.
Hello?
I'm going to mute myself so your picture hopefully can come up when you're talking.
there.
Let's
Yep.
try it.
There we go. Now we have a Jef. Wonderful. Take it away, Jef.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. Sorry about I think you know dealing
You know what,
with
Jeff?
way of
Turn off your video
dealing
and
with
that
everything.
might help.
I'm a local photographer. I grew up in the Cleveland area. Oh, let's see. Is that better?
Okay, we'll go with that.
That's better? Okay.
Yeah,
Awesome.
that's better.
I like that picture of myself way better than seeing myself in person. So I can you still hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Excellent. All right. So I'm a local photographer in the Cleveland area. I grew up in the Buckeye neighborhood, and I started taking photos as a way to have references for drawing. I'm a fine artist. I paint, I draw, I sculpt, I do a lot of other things. And it wasn't until I got to college that I'd even discovered the passion for photography once I got into the darkroom. That project, the photos that are showing right now is from a project last year. When I was asked to do this, I was also working for the public library, documenting for the 2020 project with Stephen Bivens and some other wonderful photographers in Cleveland. And I spent a lot of time in the streets downtown and other areas, and I have a lot of different contacts. And someone reached out to me and let me know that they had decided to pull all of the homeless people from that neighborhood. And I refer to it as a neighborhood because that area down that street was more of like a shanty town. It was many different tents and different things in the area, and people had been living there for some time. And I was able to go into those areas with the free clinic trucks and needle exchange trucks and kind of help out and get to know some of the people. And when they decided to move them all out, it struck me as strange that there was an incident down there, and without going into detail of the incident, they decided to move that whole population out. And the next day, there were people there with T-shirts already made up and signage announcing the project, and just literally throwing the little bit of belongings these people have into trucks and things and just throwing them away. Because all of the people had been moved out and either arrested or put into shelters and whatnot. So I felt compelled to go down and make this a part of the library's archives and document this, because although like Mindy mentioned, all the great changes that we're experiencing, you know, sometimes we have to look at how they're affecting people that don't have a lot. Growing up in the inner city neighborhoods and things, you know, I'm very aware of how quickly people can be marginalized and thrown to the side and not really viewed as important. So I wanted this to be documented so we have a reference of what happened so that we can make sure it doesn't happen again. Before I lose any more or go out of and lose my signal again, because I have a bad signal, I'll just kind of end it on that. And if anyone has questions, just feel free to ask.
Okay, thanks, Jeff. We're going to do a Q&A at the end. So if you have questions right now, you can type them into the Q&A at the bottom of your screen. And at the end, Megan will field those. And hopefully, Jeff, you'll still be on to answer them at the end. Otherwise, we're going to be emailing people later, but that's okay. Next up, we've got Shooting Without Bullets. This is our last group of artists, and this is a group that's made up of visual artists, including Jasmine Banks, Lele Bonner, and hip hop artists, James Banks, Shatara Jordan, Maurice Philpott. And it was formed by Amanda King, who is here, and actually some of the young people are here too. And so Amanda's going to tell us a little bit more about Shooting Without Bullets. I'm going to show you a little bit from the installation. This, let me see if I can get rid of that. This is a piece by Jasmine Banks, as you can see. Shooting Without Bullets in the gallery space, you can kind of see the installation behind them. The two walls on the sides are photographs of different sizes done by the visual artists, and then there is a video with sound that is playing in the background. This is a piece by Lele Bonner. And another one by Jasmine Banks. The pieces are all different sizes. Some are black and white, some are color. It's a very atmospheric multimedia installation, which incorporates, as I said, still photography, sound, video, hip hop. It engages us on multiple levels, and it's really a creative exploration of movement, and movement again in all different kinds of ways and different levels. And the visual artists whose images you see concentrated their efforts on photographing the neighborhoods of East Cleveland, Huff, and St. Clair. They centered the photographs on family, friends, and community, and addressing what carries them as they move through their worlds and why. And this is a still, this is just one still from the video montage, And Has Failed. And according to Amanda, this installation was taken from a line of Lucille Clifton's poem, Won't You Celebrate With Me, which addresses injustices against Black women and girls. And I have the poem up there on the screen so you can read it. And a quote from Amanda is, "Their words like a tide hold, grip, terrify, swallow, and carry us to them. Natural phenomena are the backdrops of their resistance against the unnatural but seemingly omnipresent forces of racism." Oops, sorry. Okay, so I'm going to turn this over to Shooting Without Bullets. There's quite a few of them, and they've got things to say, and Amanda's going to introduce everybody in person to you. And I just want to thank them again very much for being part of this exhibition. I would have to say that when I met Amanda last year, who was part of the Scene Unseen show, and I knew that we were doing this show, I really felt that their collective was perfect for this show, because they themselves are a bridge, and in their personal lives, they have to overcome many, many barriers. And so I gave them part of the gallery and said, go ahead and do something in this L shape in the gallery. And whatever you do, we're going to love it. And we do love it. It's a great piece. So I'm going to take it away. Amanda, would you like to introduce yourself and talk a little bit about Shooting Without Bullets for us?
You have to stop the sharing. There we go. Yep.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me all right? I'm Amanda. I'm a visual artist, and I'm the creative director of Shooting Without Bullets. You're sitting here with the Shooting Without Bullets Artists Collective. I'm going to tell you a little bit about Shooting Without Bullets, but I wanted to first extend my condolences to Jennifer Bivens. The loss of Stephen Bivens is felt tremendously. The loss of any Black life, which feels at like a moment of we're not ready yet, is a terrible loss. And so condolences and comfort to you and your family, and we are always thinking about Viv. So Shooting Without Bullets, we use cultural production, artist education and development, activism and advocacy to model an alternative arts ecosystem that accelerates movement, Black and brown youth and their communities need to thrive. Now, I know that that sounds like a bunch of fancy words, and they are, but really it's about, we're unhappy with the injustices that are pervasive in Cleveland. We're unhappy with the art world and creative economy here in Cleveland, particularly its exclusion of Black artists. And so we've taken it upon ourselves to create our own ecosystem, our own collective of artists, culture makers, institutional partners, if they're fitting, to spread our messages of equity through our artwork, through our platform, and through our advocacy efforts. So this work, Keep Me Posted, was devised by the Shooting Without Bullets Artists Collective, which consists of young artists. They're currently ages 19 and 20 years old, who have gone through Shooting Without Bullets' public programs and have showed tremendous talent and dedication to their artistic activism practices, and who in a few short years will be able to enter into the creative economy, we hope, and to be able to do their own solo shows, their own solo albums, and their own solo projects. We invest time, resources, and love into their creative process, and they help out Shooting Without Bullets tremendously with their creative talents, their incisive perspectives on social justice, and their dedication to making beautiful work in the city despite all of the barriers that are in their way. I would be remiss if I didn't talk about the precarity of this moment. The United States is in a moment of precariousness. Globally, we're in a moment of precariousness, but those compounding effects, they impact Black and brown folks differently. They impact Cleveland differently. Cleveland is the poorest city in the country. And so the lack of jobs because of COVID-19, the health disparities, and the perpetual and pervasive racism is keeping this city from thriving, but it is harming people like the young people sitting here today, and therefore it harms everyone. And so we wanted to think about this moment. What does it mean to be both a bridge and experience a barrier? Well, that is kind of what Shooting Without Bullets is, and what the young people go through is that their artistic practices are bridges, but they face so many barriers. But we don't focus on the negative. We want you to understand the precariousness. We want you to reform and change. But it's really about, we're going to move ourselves. This work is really about social movement. This work is about the movement for Black lives. This work is about the movement for poor people. This is about movement in criminal justice system. Any type of movement. I think that this work, even if the pictures don't physically depict it, it's the feeling of it. We know that there are uprisings happening all across this country in the names of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and countless others. And we needed to use this space to uplift that. We're talking about movement, social movement. We're talking about movement through Cleveland neighborhoods. But we're also talking about this unique moment of movement through our physical world and the digital world. And that's why the name Keep Me Posted is an email sign-off. And it's something you might say in text, right? And that is to give that digital imprint on the moment. And but the precariousness, we don't know what's next. So I will be quiet, and I will introduce the first artist, JB. JB is a 20-year-old hip hop artist, tremendous talent, a voice that can move mountains, a very gentle force, who I'm very proud to work with in Shooting Without Bullets. I can't wait to see him just change the world. And so I think we're going to introduce JB and his performance.
Do you want to say something?
Well, just in my performance, it's titled Land of the Bold. I just really wanted to convey the type of tension between just a man, a young man like me, or anyone of my race or who from my demographic who understands where we come from in these days and times where, just how things really just boiled over so quickly within this past year. And it's really just the calamity of so much other stuff from a long time ago, and just expressing that rage that, that I feel that our people are going through. That was pretty much my main goal throughout that, small verse.
Great. Okay, Megan.
All right, let me get this video played. I'm very excited to share this one by JB. Does that look good, Kelly? Can you see?
Nope.
All right, hold on one second. And we're gonna go here and share. Queued up, ready to go?
Yep. Yep.
Fuck a badge and a gun. Came from the land where we dash and we run. From the east where they said all the savages from. Going hard only cause we never had any funds. Came from the mud just trying to see the sun. Born from a slave, 3/5 to a 1, but still twice as likely to die from a gun. Man, the math all off, let me go and sum it up. See, Tamir got killed just for carrying a toy. Then Kyle caught a body making gestures to the boys. Goddamn, that ain't right. They'll violate your rights, have you fighting for your life and don't ever pay the price. We just trying to make it right. Been wrong for so long. Laugh when we get killed and still dancing to our songs. Like it ain't really real. Like we ain't in the field for real. Screaming Black Lives Matter. I ain't worried how they feel. Fuck a badge and a...
Yeah.
And then we
Who's the
have
next one, Megan and
Plus
Amanda.
P and then Mixed Rose is the order.
You want to say something first?
All right, yes, we have Los P up next, 20 years old, another brilliant hip hop artist, entrepreneur, future creative director, sick on the bike, amazing human being that I'm proud to know, and it's just a joy and a light to the world. He has his own creative vision and just knows how to bring it out, and that's very important for young artists, is to have conviction in your practice, and I definitely see that in Los. So Los, you're up.
Hello everyone, I'm Los. My name, government name is Maurice, but I'm commonly known as Los P as an artist. My piece is basically my expression. I want to convey the conversation between young Black Americans and just people in general who come from different circumstances like I come from, and what we see through our eyes and what we go through. And I want to have a conversation through my music and want to express that. So this take is basically me expressing that.
Great.
All
Okay,
right,
Megan.
coming right up.
You wanna know how I'm feeling? I'm angry. You hear me? I'm angry. I'm angry. I'm angry that you're dying and there ain't nothing I can do.
Tell us what you see when you look into our eyes. We're just trying to make it out while trying to stay alive. Praying for better days, cause ain't no time to cry. And since a young age, we done seen so many die. Ride with me, please don't lie to me. If I die right now, don't you cry for me. Ooh, yeah. Ride with me, please don't lie to me. Ooh, yeah. If I die right now, don't you cry for me. Grandma, I know you still with me. And I don't want to, but I gotta keep that still with me. Going outside can get real risky. You feel that heat and that breeze, it can get real twisty. And I don't wanna cry no more. Ooh, Lord, I don't wanna be homicide no more. I'd rather have my hands up than have my hands out. But he can even man up, he became a man down. We never knew your life be taken away. Mama said don't watch too much cause it's gon' fade away. You was born to make a change and talking about on the ways. Gotta keep your head up, I promise it's gonna be better days. Gotta get that back, that's all we ever knew. Stay on and still in control, pay to make that revenue. Nigga, they want us in the system, that's forever true. But we not always the victim, gotta change that avenue. This ain't what you want, it's what you have to do. When you look into our eyes, we're just trying to make it out while trying to stay alive. Praying for better days, cause ain't no time to cry. And since a young age, we done seen so many die. Ride with me, please don't lie to me. And if I die right now, don't you cry for me. Ooh, yeah. Ride with me, please don't lie to me. Ooh, yeah. If I die right now, don't you cry for me. And I don't know how to feel no more. Too much going on, I can't feel no more. I've been going through some shit that's inside of me. Trying to mask it out real silently. Keep your head up if you're going through something. We don't feel pain, nigga, we don't feel nothing. Trying to stay here, trying to make it back home. Yeah, a lot of my people dead, they ain't make it back home. Hey, man, I know you still with me. Hey, Auntie Jackie, I know you still with me. On Lil Rex, on Lil Neil, I know you still with me. All my people, who they gone, I know you still with me. All my families who didn't pass, I know you still with me. All my family who didn't pass, I know you still with me. All my people that ain't gone, I know you still with me. If I lost somebody, and I know you really Tell us what you see when you look into our eyes. We just trying to make it out while trying to stay alive. Praying for better days, cause ain't no time to cry. And since a young age, we have seen so many die. Ride with me, please don't lie to me. If I die right now, don't you cry for me, oh yeah. Ride with me, please don't lie to me, oh yeah. If I die right now, don't you cry for me.
Woo!
Woo!
That's great. All right, we have one more.
Yes, up next we have Mix Rose, tremendous 19-year-old talent, jack of all trades. Tara is a wonderful actress. Tara is a designer. Tara is a hip hop artist whose bars just, they hold us. They just grip us. So powerful, a beautiful spirit. Someone who is on the up and up, on the rise, who is again going to take over the world. And I'm very proud to know her. She's so mature and focused and deep. This is a deep, 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 deep young artist right here. So Tara, welcome and take it away.
Hi everybody, I'm Shatara. My piece, I really wanted to focus on the different issues that's going on in the world, and I really wanted to focus on the different emotions tied to those issues. It's a mixture of everything from sad to happy to anger to all of the above, because the world can make us pretty emotional. And I also wanted to put something uplifting in it, which is the main part of the whole entire piece, devoted to telling people that you can achieve whatever it is that you want to put your mind to, that your dreams are meant for you. You just got to work for them, you got to go after them, and you have to believe that they're yours and you can conquer the world.
All right.
And with that being said,
I am so in tune with my dreams. My dreams chase me. My dreams have dreams about me. I am so grounded in my identity. My roots grow stems that direct me back to my motherland. My determination is name brand, and my purpose in this world was already planned. So just when you think you can kill me, you cannot kill what was instilled to change the wickedness of a system that was designed to see me fail, designed to turn my pain into profit, designed to sexualize me before I know what cooties are, designed to watch me burn my hair and my daughter's hair because you said we weren't pretty enough. I am the voice of the innocent, vocal cords you cut, women who say no, but you pretend not to hear them. I am a part of a change, a transformation, something strange. My generation should be the generation you are scared of, because after us, you will regret all of the unjust. The youth is a force to be reckoned with. Don't downplay what we go through. Don't look at us and discuss like mildew. We are not to be pitied. We are a need like water to rehydrate this dried out system you left us with. Race should only be a game between kids with bumper cars. My family has dreams. Some of them give speeches. Some of their dreams came true. Some of them sold their dreams. And some of them died before their dreams could touch them. I say this on behalf of the dreamers who truly believe. We are not chasing our dreams. Our dreams are chasing us. So if you mess with our dreams will give you the nightmares. I am
All right. Very good. I just have to say that I was here last Friday filming these 3 artists, and to watch them and to watch these 2 women just support these artists was amazing. So I just needed to say that.
Thank you.
Yeah, do you have anything else? Does anybody?
Yes, so I want to also introduce 2 instrumental folks in Shooting Without Bullets as well. Jasmine Banks, 20 years old, brilliant photographer, has been in Shooting Without Bullets day 1, before the hype, before the gallery shows, when it was just an idea in a small classroom. And she's truly kept the momentum of this organization going through her photography. She's a very quiet one. So she's like, I do the work and then I don't speak. So we let her do that. But we're so proud of her, and her work is beautiful in this show as usual. And just, she's a testament to, like, if you pour into young talent, you will get tremendous work. And she's a prime example of that. Proud to know her, proud to work with her. And then Kelsey Carter, the impact director of Shooting Without Bullets, the other half of the leadership of the organization. My best friends, purest heart in the world, dedicated to movement, dedicated to racial equity. Just a joy and pleasure to work with every day, keeps me grounded, but she keeps this organization moving. And I'm so glad that to introduce her to the world, and I can't wait to see what we do next.
Yeah, this is the hard part about being virtual, because we would have this gallery full and so many people would have been so happy to be here in person. So you all were great. And I'll turn it over to Megan.
I just want to say before we start the Q&A, it's been a real pleasure working with all these artists, but it's particularly been great working with Shooting Without Bullets, seeing what you guys are doing. And like Kelly said, having the opportunity to witness 3 performances that we videotaped. I wish that everybody could have been there in person to see them. And also, I feel really bad that you guys are sitting there with masks on in the gallery space too. I just have to say that the COVID-19 thing, has forced us all to sort of interact in this crazy world in this fashion, but it would be really nice to see all of your faces tonight and not just those whose performances we filmed. So I'm sorry about that. So I think we're going to turn it over to Megan on the Q&A.
Hi, everyone, and thanks again for being here. It's been amazing to even share space in a virtual space and to feel that presence of all the artists together. So before I get going, go ahead and, so I know a lot of you probably have questions for the artists, and feel free to put them into the Q&A. Could be at the bottom of your screen, but just preface the question with the artist's name, and then we'll ask them right away. So I'm going to actually start with an icebreaker, which is going to be a question that's asked of each one of the artists. So I'll go down the line. But the question to each artist, and I'll go in the order of the presentations, which one of your photographs was the most challenging to capture? Doesn't have to be in the exhibition, just like one you really remember. So I'm going to go ahead and start with Chuck Mintz. Get you unmuted right there. As it takes a moment. There we go. Chuck, take it away. Which one was your hardest one to capture?
Actually, the first one. When I originally conceived this project, there were 11 pieces because I assumed that we lived in my childhood home when I was born. And it finally it finally came to me that that wasn't the case. And it's amazing how difficult it is to find out things like where people lived 70 years or 60 years ago at the time. And so it was kind of an adventure, just figuring out where my parents lived when I was born, and it was sort of eye-opening because I never thought about it. So that was, not necessarily the most difficult photograph I had to make, but certainly the most perplexing.
It's pretty amazing with your work, Chuck, that especially the ones where you're looking into the window for Chucky's room, I believe that's the detail. And I thought that photograph was Photoshop was altered with a digital program. And no, it's the reflection of the artist, you, looking in the window, and you get that tenuous nature of peeking in some place that you used to live. That was inspiring. So that one, I'm going to go ahead and ask, for Jennifer, I'm going to modify it just a smidge and ask maybe what is one of your favorite images from Stephen, one of your favorite of his photographs? I know.
That's a loaded question. There are thousands of them, literally. I think my favorite one in the show that's in the gallery right now is Hope, which is the image that was shown earlier of the Guardian and the bridge. I think in part just because of the perspective of the bridge itself and the Guardian. I mean, that's an iconic Cleveland image, but I think the way that Stephen captured it that day, who knows where he was standing to do that. I mean, I know he and Jef would go out and shoot sometimes, and they would just wander around into all of these nooks and crannies and get these great shots. And so that's just the nature of, of pursuing that. But that's my favorite image in the gallery right now is Hope.
And I was struck that as I was getting to know Stephen's work, there's a million pictures of the Hope Memorial Bridge, but he had such a unique perspective. It didn't feel like anybody else's photo, and it was remarkable. And as I dove more into his work, I noticed that he had this just unique perspective of the city and the monuments.
Very much so. Yeah.
Beautiful to see. Lauren, let me toss it to you next. Got the unmute going for Lauren.
I would say that the one that's right behind me was the most challenging because it's a collage. It's made up of multiple photographs and then digitally put together, merged. And what was difficult about it was to get the interaction of the elements. It's one thing to have the elements in front of you and have to try to make them communicate. It's a very different thing to have the elements laid out on the desk in front of you and try to figure out how to make them communicate together. And that was my second collage, so I'm pretty proud of it. And just I have to admit, it took nearly a year to create, but it was fun.
I never even thought about that. Like, it's almost like laying pieces out on a desk when you're sort of doing it. And it looks amazing. You get the feel of all the gardens together, which is so cool. And let me toss it over to Jef. So here's fingers crossed we got a Jef connection. So 1 second, let me get, all right. Hey, Jef, yay. So
hey.
Oh, it's so good to see you.
Hi. Yeah, it's good to finally get a real signal. And I'll go with the series that's up. All of those were difficult to take because they didn't want me there. When I came into the area and they saw I had a camera, people were very bothered, which, they were throwing people's belongings and things away onto the back of a truck. But the credentials that the library gave me to be able to work on the project gave me enough maneuverability that they couldn't really get me to leave, and it's a public area, so what were they gonna do? So, but you get a lot of funky looks and people don't really want you to record them doing something like that. So
I wonder why they didn't want you to record it,
a little bit of guilt for throwing people's personal belongings away when you're walking around high-fiving and celebrating as you're doing it. It kind of casts a bad shadow, I guess.
I think that's pretty, I'm glad you were there to do that, because yeah, I've often noticed that people don't want you to record stuff that they don't feel 100% on in the first place. And if they were.
And a lot of times in a lot of my street work and things that I'm doing, I'm generally in an area or somewhere that some people don't want you to record it or document those things. And, you know, it kind of comes with the territory of being a street photographer, you know.
It's definitely adventurous work. You know, it does not seem like for the shy of heart. Yeah. You gotta just go in full hog.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, I speak to a lot of the people that I do take photos of. When I do portraits and things on the street, I'll go up and talk to them and begin a conversation. And when you're dealing with the homeless population or people on the street, you don't know if there's mental issues or things going on when you're approaching them. So you kind of got to be leery. So there's always that issue of how you approach a person. And, you know, I try to approach people and be very humble when I'm dealing with them and things. So.
Yeah. Well, I think that communicates through in your images. You can definitely see that there's a rapport versus sort of a taking of an image. It seems to be more of a communication versus I have the privilege of it. Oh.
Yeah, I mean, for me, a lot of the photography is built on the relationship I built with a person, especially in portraiture and things like that. It's built on a connection more so than just going in and getting a stale picture of a person.
And definitely to see more of Jeff's work, because we were cut short by the connection before, I'll drop your website in the links so people can check it out. His portraiture is
thank you. Yeah.
Stunning. So definitely take a look, see. So, and that puts me, so I did, so that's going to put to Shooting Without Bullets. I can open this up either to Amanda or to anyone involved. What was one of the most challenging photos, we'll say, in the exhibition that you took, and why? So,
in general, I think that all of the work in the exhibition was a challenge because of this moment. You know, I mean, we are dealing with two pandemics, right? The pandemic of racism and state-sanctioned violence, and the pandemic of COVID-19. So even just going out to shoot on the streets, it's difficult. It's hard to navigate. And, you know, Cleveland is already a red line city, so access and just opportunities for people to be out and about, it's simply not there. And there's also the emotional weight of the work. You know, going through the neighborhoods and seeing the lack of investment, even in times when our communities need it most, it's not there. Some of the photos that I took were from protests in the name of Desmond Franklin, who was killed here in Cleveland over on the west side. That photo, I took a photo of a father holding his daughter at the protest, a very young girl. That was a difficult photo to take. I took a film still of the protest in the name of George Floyd down at the Justice Center on May 30th. And there's a guy who is popping a wheelie in front of a patrol car. And it wasn't about executing the right shot, because I really wasn't even thinking about it. It was the severity of that moment. I was there to fight and to resist. I was not there to take pictures. I was not there to create something cool. I was there in solidarity with my people. And I think that I captured a beautiful moment. That work is important to me because I specifically chose a moment. I could have photographed the police officers brutalizing my people, but I will not give them that light. I will not give them that credit. I will not show Black trauma and pain. So I showed the movement, the guy on the bike doing the wheelie, in all of the commotion, all of the chaos, all of the oppression moving through. That's what this social movement is about. We're going to move through it with intention. We're going to have our chariots, our bikes, our whatever, and we are going to move through this moment and transform society. So that was a difficult work. I would say our video montage, which unfortunately you didn't see tonight, that was very difficult for me to create. I thank Jasmine and Los P for contributing to that. I think it's a beautiful piece, way too complex to talk about right now, but please come to the gallery and see it. I think it's spectacular. And anybody else? Difficult content, work? It doesn't have to be just the photographs. No? Chad said they were all too easy.
This is where I wish you could see the whole face. We were missing emotion.
Yeah, and to speak to the video that they're referring to, so definitely come to the space. They're shooting out the bullets work. We can show you the stills. We could even play you the video in isolation, but it's the idea that all of that comes together, and when you enter that space, you're surrounded by it, and that's what's so powerful and important. The gallery is open Wednesday through Saturday. Our gallery hours are posted on the website, but 10 a.m. to 4 p.m., noon to 4 on Wednesday, on Saturdays. But come in and see it. Their work is amazing, and it holds space, and it's powerful. So definitely pop in when you have the opportunity. So thank you so much, Amanda, for talking about that work too, and for all of you guys. So the next question I'm going to do is that I'm actually going to throw it to Lauren, actually, Paccini. I got a, this is where I play the unmute shuffle, and then there's a slight delay just to make it a little crazy. Yay, yay. So Lauren, I have a question for you, which was from Maggie Neptune, which is there anything happening with the Huron Road Hospital that you know of?
You're breaking my heart.
Oh no, not my attention.
I have a very strong connection to Huron Road Hospital. And I assume you're speaking of the most recent, not the 800 Huron. Well, that the space is just space. I worked very hard to try to convince the Cleveland Clinic when I knew that they were going to demolish that complex to allow me to go in and photograph it so that those photographs would be available to historians doing research in the future. And they wouldn't touch it. They would not permit it. And they wouldn't even allow me to walk through it. And you know, they're just, anybody connected to Cleveland Clinic out there, cover your ears. They're not great stewards of Cleveland history. And so I don't know what's happening to the vacant space. Nothing that I know of. And I just keep hoping that one day I'm going to hear that something is being done.
It's remarkable how much change that you've seen go through the city. And I remember, Lauren, you were mentioning that when you went away, being a, thank you for your service, a veteran who served in Vietnam, that a lot of the change to the city occurred in almost a 6-year period from the time you were deployed to the time you returned home. So, and that a lot of your photography is from hope. And I think that comes a lot through in your cultural garden work too. And Lauren, real quick while I have you, did you mention when your book is coming out?
The book will be coming out One World Day next August.
So definitely we will make sure to share that on social media whenever it occurs. And Lauren, of course, has his own robust website and ability to get there, but we'll definitely do that too. So thank you, Lauren.
Thank you.
Next one, I'm going to go ahead and throw it to Jef. Got you unmuted. Jef, we were wondering how long did the, God, that cut me to the core. Project is in quotes, because it sounds like, oh, the project of removing these people's lives. But how long did the project take? Was everything thrown away in one day?
One afternoon. That was all the photos and everything that was one afternoon. That like it, they went in and pretty much demolished and destroyed everything. That you know, had I not got there that day, I wouldn't have seen it. And it sits relatively empty even now. Nothing really has been done with it. You know, when they do go back down there and try to repopulate the area, they chase them back out. So it was all gone in one day. You know, like many things, when you know they go in and demolish something, they're quick to do it, and you know, and then just leave it empty.
And actually, I know that, I think it's I'll double check with Kelly, but the Ohio Coalition for the Homeless, I'll check with Kelly on that one, is an organization that tried to advocate for them prior to this thing occurring. There's supposed to be money allocated for relocating people if there's construction projects, and it was not occurred. So we'll definitely put those links in the comments too. If there's any way that people want to help the homeless population in the area, we'll be able to provide an organization that does so. So thank you, Jef, very much. So the next one then, looks like we have a couple of questions for Shooting Without Bullets that we will be very pleased to ask. So let me get them all queued up. Shooting Without Bullets, can you, got a good audio there? Oh, good, we're unmuted. So first off, Shooting Without Bullets, we have a flood of people appreciative of your performances and your work. Everything from just in the comments to just everybody saying, wow, and it's amazing. So question, first off, we have a request that you could please introduce the artists again. So would people mind saying their names again for Shooting Without Bullets?
My name is Lowe's P.
JB.
Jasmine.
Mix Rose.
And of course, Amanda King and Kelsey. So,
Yeah.
well,
King and Kelsey Carter. Yeah.
Kelsey Carter, good. And thank you so much for that. And so that was somebody tuning in from North Carolina, and their presentation was so inspired them, and they wanted to find out about that. So a couple of things. One is Shooting Without Bullets, and however you want to divide this. Do you want to stay in Cleveland and fight for true renewal, or do you find yourselves wanting to get out? Interesting question. Very Cleveland question, right? Only honest answers.
Well, I feel like as an artist, like the artist part of me wants to be able to create work and show it to the entire world. But there's also like another side of me that wants to also be able to provide for just my community. You know, I feel like my artistic sense and a lot of things I got into as a kid were just a product of, you know, the geography of my landscape and my ability to have access to different programs, opportunities, and things of that sort. So I just want to always be able to, you know, bring something back to my community and better it, pretty much.
Anybody else on the stay go question?
I know my main focus is that I know there is people like me and kids like me and people who come to situations that I came from all over the world, all over the United States. And we all face these same similar situations. So my main goal is to eventually, you know, branch out, but that's not the end result. The end result is to use the world as a mask to show light on what we've been through, to show light on what's really happening here. Like, I would not be where I'm at if it wasn't for the people in the city who supported me until now. So it's time to just take that and run with it.
Good for you.
And I'll say on the organizational side of things, it's very similar to what these young artists have said. Our impact is here in Cleveland. We strive to pour into Cleveland communities, particularly Cleveland communities where Black and Brown folk live, which are largely those redline communities that Mindy alluded to earlier, and that some of Chuck's foreclosure work highlights and sort of points to, gets that conversation started. But ultimately, Cleveland has a lot to say, and these young artists have a lot to say. And it's not heard enough. And so we want to spread those messages and our art as far and wide as we possibly can.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I think a lot of people say, you know, there's a phrase in New York that if you make it there, you can make it anywhere. And I always shift that statement to Cleveland. It's like, if you can make it here, you can make it anywhere in the United States and be a model. And that's exactly what Shooting Without Bullets is dedicated to, is how do we create an arts ecosystem here that competes with New York, LA, Chicago, Oakland, et cetera, and it pours the economic profits and benefits back into the community. I think that so many times the arts ecosystem is looking for validation outside of the city when we don't need that validation. It's good to get the impact and the effect to go national, and nationally there's a larger pot to pull from, but we want to pour it back into these streets. This is the poorest city in the United States. I'm not looking at New York for change. I'm looking for change right here in Huff, in St. Clair Superior, in East Cleveland. That's where the real change needs to happen.
Yeah. Yes. Not the most professional response to Q&A, sorry. Yeah. No, it's amazing. It's that if you can instigate change in a city that has so many challenges, you're unstoppable. And wow, we want the whole world to hear you guys. Like, that's inspiring and beautiful, and we thank you for it so much. And we had actually, in speaking of across the country, as we did have a good question, which is that, yes, the work from Shooting Without Bullets is for sale. The vast majority, if not, I think all of it, if I'm not mistaken, some are priced on request. So if there's something, you can contact the Artist Archives if you want to do it online, or you can come in and take a look at the work and the pricing, and we're thrilled to be able to offer that. So I have, I believe, one more for Shooting Without Bullets, and that is actually to Mixed Rose. So to the young lady who was performing with Shooting Without Bullets, do you write your lyrics first and then look at music? What's the relationship between the lyrics and the music in your work?
Well, I really do both. It kind of depends on what I'm writing, and it depends on the mood that I'm feeling at that moment in time. I know predominantly, most of the time I always listen to the sound and see how I resonate with the sound and what words come about from listening to the sound. When I'm not listening to sound, then I also just write down the words, and then I kind of create the melodies in my head on my own to see what would best fit with those words. So that's kind of like how my process is.
It was inspiring, and it's just so empowering, especially from the women standpoint, is just amazing. That is, I believe, which is actually excellent timing, I believe that is all of the questions that we have. Thank you so much to all of our artists for answering. And I'm going to go ahead and throw it back to Mindy. We'll have closing remarks, but this has been inspiring, and we are truly grateful for all of you being in this show. So thank you.
Sure. Thanks, Megan. We have just a little extra time, so I'm just going to ask all the artists, what have you got coming up next? We could start with Shooting Without Bullets. I was looking online. You had a really, really active 2019. I'm sure 2020 is as kind of the COVID's kind of put a kibosh on stuff as it has for most of us. But what's happening next? What do you got coming up next?
Wow. We have some really great stuff in store. You know, with creative projects, we're not able to discuss our upcoming collaborations. But I can say that these are beautiful opportunities, and we're very grateful for them. But we would not be telling the truth if we didn't say that COVID-19 has hindered some of our creative projects. But we have many down the pipeline, and I would just say keep watch, very close watch. We have an active end of 2020, but I would say that all of our work is going to be, again, tied towards social movement. We know that there is an election coming up, and it is pivotal, and all of these young people have the opportunity to vote in that election. We're thinking about all of these, every project that we release, we're thinking about the larger picture, and our work is fun, and it's beautiful, and it's powerful, but make no mistake about it, it is a tool for social change. And yeah, I don't mean to be like coy, but we can't really talk about them.
So what's the best way to keep up with what's going on? Website, social media, like what's the best?
Shootingwithoutbullets.org is our website. We're on Instagram at shootingwithoutbullets. The best way to support us right now is to come in and see this exhibition and to buy the work off the wall. But to make donations on our website, I need to stress how important it is to invest resources in artists of color's creative practices, especially at this age. We know that the success in the art world is directly tied to wealth. We don't have wealth in this organization, but we have talent. So we're relying on the people to pour resources into us so that we can redistribute those resources into the artists in our collective, as well as into the artists who are in our public programs. We do public programs for young people ages 13 to 17 as well. We do public programs for intergenerational public programs. But we need resources now more than ever. We know that arts funding is going to be cut. We know that although everyone talks a good game about racial equity, the truth is conservatism is still running America, and that organizations like Shooting Without Bullets get left behind very easily because it's too radical, it's too real, and it's too transformative for many donors and funders. So it really is up to the community and our supporters to help invest in these young artists, but also we're a creative agency. We are not looking for handouts. We are actually open for hire to do creative work. And that is really the best way to pour into our organization because the young people get hands-on experience, working and problem solving with our clients and putting out an output that goes onto their resumes, into their portfolios, and in their memory that helps them build upon their creative practice.
That's great.
So everyone knows the website link is in the chat. I repeat, the website link is in the chat.
Thanks, Amanda. Anybody else have anything coming up that they'd like to plug before I move on to the archives things that I'm going to plug? Raise your hand. Lauren, anything coming up? We know you've got a book coming.
Well, I have the book coming, but I'm very excited about a project that I will be starting late March or early April, documenting the renovation, restoration, and repurposing of the former Warner and Swayze building at 55th and Carnegie. And again, it's a project that is really very near and dear to my heart. In high school and college, I worked there summers and worked at Warner and Swayze for a year before I went into the Army. So I am really excited to see finally that project coming to life and to be a part of documenting it, and hopefully it will result in another book.
Cool. Jennifer, any other opportunities to see Stephen's work? I think there are right now, aren't there?
Yes, his work is showing at the main library branch as part of the Cleveland 2020 project. Jeff's is too. And so that'll be on display through the end of November. And the library is actually open. So you can go in and actually see it. So yes, so that's up, and I don't necessarily have any future plans to share his work, but I will continue to honor requests for it as they come my way. But yes, his work is up and you can see it.
Excellent. Chuck, you're a busy guy. What have you got coming up?
There
you go. You have to unmute yourself, Chuck. We can't hear you.
Here's the button.
There you go.
Yeah, I have my Lustron Stories project is going to be exhibited at Gallery M at the Maslin Museum of Art in January. And I'm pretty excited about that. And that's the subject of my last book. I'm also going through a major transition. People that know my work realize that my last half a dozen projects have all been based on volunteers. And my next project was set up to use volunteers. And getting volunteers is challenging and troublesome for somebody who doesn't like talking on the phone. And it's kind of impossible now. So I'm redirecting in some work where I don't have to ask people to help me. And we'll see.
Jef, anything besides the library?
Well, I'm still running a studio downtown, as well as my day job keeps me kind of busy. I'm a photographer at NASA, but I am working on a book right now of the work from the 2020 project, and hopefully I can convince Jen to include some of Biv's work in there, and we can get him in the book as well. And that's pretty much it, just working on the book and staying pretty busy with the studio and everyday work we're working at as a photographer at NASA. So it keeps me pretty busy.
Cool. Okay, you guys that are working on books, when your books are done, we want to sell some in the archives because we do a pretty good job selling books. So I just want to thank everybody again. I think we're gonna just close the program. I would like to say that we have a couple of things coming up at the archives. On Saturday, October 10th, we have a program as part of Bridges and Barriers called Through Our Lens, Photography as a Tool for Social Justice. And this is a panel discussion moderated by one of our board members, artist and activist, Christy Kopez. And it will feature Amanda King, Barbara Tannenbaum, the CMA Curator of Photography, and Dr. Nicole Fleetwood, who is Professor of American Studies and Art History at Rutgers University. Fleetwood is curator of Prison Nation, a traveling photography exhibition depicting the hidden American prison population. So that's going to be a great program Saturday afternoon. It'll be on Zoom again, but it's free. So please join us if you can. We also have in November, Wednesday, November 4th, the infamous Bridge Wars of 1836 with Judy McKeegan of the Metro Parks. There actually were wars fought over the bridges, which are spanning East and West Cleveland. So pretty interesting history there. And I would also like to mention that the Archives is going to be holding we hope, a fun Zoom event on October 30th. We're gonna do a Halloween party. This is a fundraiser for our Legacy Society. Tricks or treats are in order. And I think it's gonna be a little bit chaotic. It's gonna be a little bit crazy. And it's going to cost you a little bit of money, just a little bit, not too much. And so everybody who can, please look for that. We'll probably start publicizing that in a couple of weeks, and we'll get the word out there on social media and our website. And I hope you can join us for that. As Amanda said, arts organizations are suffering right now, and right from the big ones down to the small ones. And we all could use a little bit of support at this time. And with that, I'm going to say that if you'd like to become a member of the Archives, please visit our website. Membership helps support us very greatly. Artist members in particular get lots of benefits for your membership, but we'll take donations of any amount of any kind, believe me. And you can do it through the website. You can do it by calling us. You can do it in person. You can come visit the show. You can buy some of Shooting Without Bullets photography. That'll help the Archives, and it'll help their collective at the same time, and it'll help the young people who produce the photographs, because everybody likes to sell some work. So I think that's it, everybody. Thanks again for coming to see us. Please come and see the show in person. We'd love to have you. Thank you, staff, for doing such a great job. Megan and Kelly, you do a fabulous job. Thank you, artists. Thank you, Amanda. Thank you, Kelsey. You guys are running an amazing organization. Jasmine, you don't say very much, but your photographs say a lot. Maurice Lusp, it was great to see you perform. Same thing with Mixed Rose and JB. It was a real honor to have you in our gallery space. So Jef, Chuck, Lauren, and Jennifer, thanks again. It's great to see you guys in person, those that I haven't met in person before. And I'm going to say good night, everybody. Good night.
It was a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.